I am so proud to introduce to you tonight Professor Elie Weisel. He is the 2013 National Jefferson Award winner for the greatest public service from a private citizen. You will hear more from Professor Weisel when he receives his honor tomorrow on the arena stage. But tonight, as I said, we get to welcome him to our own private stage to hear from him more about his life story and his immense contributions to the world. Professor Elie Weisel, please make your way up to the stage. I, with so many people here and around the world, have been deeply moved by your life's work, your writings, of course, Night, and your most recent work, Open Heart, where you chronicled 2 years ago your emergency open heart surgery at the age of 82, I believe. And you wrote about this incredible journey that you survived. And during your writing, you said at 82, and you're facing mortality, you said, I can't believe it might be over. I'm not ready. I feel as if life has just begun. So I want to open this conversation with asking Elie Weisel, what was most pressing on your mind and is on your mind to still achieve?
I haven't even begun.
So 80 is the new 60?
More or less. It's true. Look, I've published a lot of books. I have taught many classes, visited many countries, spoken to leaders. Still, it's not what I really think I was born to do. Somehow in heaven they must have decided there is something else, which I haven't done yet. So therefore I'm not ready. And I'm waiting to be surprised.
When you laid there and wrote so intimately and honestly, you said there were many lectures still to give. There was much work yet to be done. Was there anything specific on your mind that you said, I'm not ready until this one thing still is done or written?
Look, I have published 60 books. It's a lot of books. And nevertheless, I really feel I haven't even begun. That means the book I wanted to write, I haven't written yet. And therefore, I will write it one day. And that may be the last one, so I'm waiting. But the main thing is, look, what has been my life? I have been a teacher, and I have been a student. No teacher can be a good teacher unless he or she is a student. And a writer. What am I writing about? Of course I write stories, of course I write novels, of course I write books on philosophy. This is my life. But still, each time when I finish, I say, well, it's not it yet. Maybe the next one. So I'm doing something else.
I would be remiss if I did not ask you how you are feeling since your open heart surgery now 2 years later.
Ask my wife.
When I asked you before, you went,
No, it's okay, really. At that time, to be in the hospital, it's an experience. Of course, all of a sudden you are so alone. And for you, any visit by the doctor is, of course, as if the angel came from heaven just to be with you. Every doctor, every nurse, they are filled with grace. At that moment, they are the most important people in the world to me. And they know it, and I want them to know it. And that is almost the advantage of being ill. You cannot live a long life without at times being ill. That is the advantage to it. You feel the frailty, but also the riches of every moment. You know that the next moment may be the end, but nevertheless, until that moment, you can do something by thinking, by writing, by remembering, by singing, by loving, by doing something which has never done before, I think.
In Open Heart, you wrote that when looking back at your life, surviving Auschwitz and Buchenwald, and so many other events since liberation, you said you weren't sure why you survived when so many others did not. But you said that you would commit your life to making it your duty, to making the most out of your survival. What inspired me is that Professor Weisel said that you weren't sure that you've succeeded at that. I want to know if that is true, and if it is true, what would be enough in your mind?
Believe me, I wouldn't say it if it weren't true. No, at my age, I don't play with words. I respect language.
You don't feel that you've achieved your mission?
Not yet. Again, what is a mission? I've published so many books, it's true. I've given so many lectures, I've taught so many classes. It's true, all that. And yet, it's not it yet. Maybe one day I will wake up at night and write a poem. And that poem will be finally what I wanted to do, and to say, and to transmit. Or no, maybe a short story for children, to make them fall asleep. And that short story will contain all the mysteries that life contains, especially my own.
Well, the Elie Weisel Foundation, which you established a year after you won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986, your mission of the foundation, as I read, is to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive and to empower youth to carry on a mission of compassionate activism. Tell me about the work that you're doing and what you're most proud of with your foundation.
We have done it together with my wife. Whatever I do together with my wife, naturally, since we got married many years ago. But the foundation, one day she was in Israel, and I was teaching, so I couldn't go with her. She called me up, and she says, "You won't believe what we are going to do." I said, "What?" She said, "We are going to open children's homes for Ethiopian children." I said, "What?" Okay. Before evolved all of a sudden with, I think, 1,000 Ethiopian children. So we created a foundation only for that. And that foundation grew, and we are doing so many other things. It means you have no idea what work we are trying to do. We became an address. Human rights, naturally, and racism, and so forth. So we work, and we work, and we work, and the foundation is small, but very active. For the first thing that we did, we organized a Nobel conference. Since I got the Nobel Prize, I said, why not do something that never been done before? And we organized a conference only for Nobel laureates. And we brought together 70 Nobel laureates in every field, literature and physics and so forth and so forth. And for 3 days, it's incredible what we have achieved in those 3 days. The best minds gathered to speak about the human condition. What can we do for this world which needs repair, and so forth. So we are continuing.
You have spoken so much about youth, and I read the Ethics Essay 2013 award winner, first prize, and this young student wrote an essay entitled Losing Self, Finding Self, which was a call for mankind to see ourselves in each other. Why did that theme resonate so strongly with you to award him that first prize?
First, it was well written. It was very well written. And also because ultimately we are not alone. Man is not alone. God alone is alone. And therefore, we must do something so that anyone who is alone and is unhappy being alone should not feel alone. Wherever and whenever there is a victim, the first part of the victimhood is the loneliness of the victim. So I cannot help the victim, but one thing I can prevent that victim from feeling abandoned, lonely, forgotten, neglected.
Professor Weisel, one of the things I must say that I feel miraculous when reading your life story is no matter the most horrific, evil atrocities that you yourself experienced, you lost your father, your family, you've never, in your writing anyway, abandoned your faith in God or mankind, the goodness of mankind. How is that possible?
I don't know. Tell me.
said that every human being, upon liberation, had a choice to make between gratitude and anger. I think anyone in the room has been faced with their own situations where you have to make that choice. And when I read that you said that, I said, is it really a decision that one makes?
It is a decision. Look, I belong to a generation that has seen what no other generation had seen. The total collapse of whatever humanity meant. What society did to betray itself and its ideals. Never before has there been something like that in Europe, which I have seen and endured. So I had all the rights in the world to say, go to hell. Go to hell, society. Go to hell, civilization. Civilized people were the murderers. Those who were the murderers in Auschwitz had medical degrees and some of them PhDs. How could they? And I could have at least said, come on, leave me alone. So what? What good would it have done for my future students or children? Really? So of course I discarded that option. I said, I cannot think of myself alone. God alone is alone. The human being is not. And therefore, we must do something. What can we do? If you are a poet, write poems. If you are an interviewer, do the interviews. If you are what you are doing here, I must tell you, both my wife and I here were sitting amazed. We have never imagined that here in Washington we would see a community so open, so generous, and so ready to help those who need help. You know, we are going back with a gift, the gift of that memory.
You write a lot about the unfathomable silence of the world during Hitler's atrocities. And when we look forward from those horrible days and you see the Sudan and a little further back Rwanda and Bosnia and even further apartheid, we ask, have we learned the lessons of the Holocaust? Do we listen? Have we changed? Will it happen again?
A few months ago, the President Obama wanted to go to the museum, which I was the founder of here in Washington. And we went to the museum, and we saw it's a very good museum. It breaks your heart. At the same time, it puts you together when you leave. But it's very, very meaningful. I had invested my adult life in that. And when we left, I asked the President, I said, what would you have done? Had you been present in those times, what would you have done? And he's an honest man, absolutely honest, sincere, and he said, I wish I knew. This question, of course, applies to those who his predecessors. To us, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to Jews in Europe, he was a father figure. I didn't know the name of Ben-Gurion in Israel, but I knew Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We said prayers for him on Shabbat. And when I found out, after the war, when I came to America, that he knew so much in real time what was going on in Auschwitz and so forth. And it took so long, it took America so long to intervene. I said, something was wrong there. But I am not in the field of condemning people. I cannot condemn. Any human being deserves my hope, my faith. Anyone. So I'm not condemning, but the questions remain open.
You give us hope and faith in mankind that there is light that always encourages compassion, even in the greatest darkness. It's my honor to interview you. Thank you so very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
The 2013 S. Roger Horchow Award for Greatest Public Service by a Private Citizen goes to Professor Elie Weisel for founding of the Elie Weisel Foundation for Humanity, an organization that he and his wife have created. As you know, Elie is an Auschwitz and Buchenwald survivor. The foundation's mission, rooted in the memory of the Holocaust, is to combat indifference, intolerance, and injustice through international dialogue and youth-focused programs that promote acceptance, understanding, and equality. He was appointed chairman of the President's Commission on the Holocaust by President Jimmy Carter and became founding chairman of the United States Holocaust Memorial Council. Professor Weisel is the author of more than 50 books. He is a teacher, he is a distinguished professor, and most notably, a humanitarian of the highest order. I'm honored to present Professor Elie Weisel the 2013 S. Roger Horchow Award for Greatest Public Service by a Private Citizen. Please join me in welcoming Elie Weisel.
Thank you, Giselle, and thank you, all of you here. Both Marion and I have been impressed with what you were saying last night and today, and we go actually from a kind of astonishment to astonishment. To see young people today so motivated, and to see so many of you helping those young people in their motivation is to us, or to me, surely, a sign of hope. Very often the writer that I am, the witness that I believe to be, have doubts. What are we doing in this world? In my own case, what does survival mean? What does it imply? What does it order us to do as such? And, oh, God knows, I've written books and I have taught classes, and I go around a little bit in the world trying to say what I have to say in a few words, meaning that some of you have heard me say that the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. The opposite of hope is not despair, but indifference. The opposite of beauty is not ugliness, but indifference to all that is human. Indifference is the enemy incorporated. Why? Because it is the indifference that kills whatever is creative, whatever is appealing, whatever is noble in the human condition. To say that one is indifferent to what is happening in the world is an admission of defeat. We don't like what we see. So what do we do? To be indifferent to it? No, we fight it. We choose action, words, and these words become action. What I have understood from being with you since yesterday, that this is your philosophy. Words leading to action. The world needs it. Believe me, the world we live in is not yet a good world. There are too many people still suffering. Too many communities still humiliated. Too many individuals still frustrated. There is still hatred in the world. Haven't we learned that hatred is never an answer? Because hatred can only bring more hatred. Whatever we must do, even in protest, must stop hatred before anything else. So therefore, I also believe in gratitude. Do you know, I discovered one day that the German SS, the elite, were forbidden to use the word thank you. They felt they owe nothing to anyone. How can one live like that? You know, after the war, I came to children's homes, to orphanages. I didn't stop saying thank you to the driver of the taxi, to the waiter. Go on saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being human. But they say no one should be thankful. We are thankful. We are thankful to live in this country, which, with all the criticism one may have, is still the example of democracy in the world. We are thankful to live in this generation, this young generation, that is so open to learn from the past what was noble in it, the philosophers, to Socrates, and what is so horrible in it, Hitler. We learn, but then we learn from one another. I can tell you, I still learn to this day more than I can teach. I can teach because, excuse me, because I learn. And we learn from one another. A handshake is a lesson. You are a living lesson. And for this, all my gratitude. Thank you.
I want to tell you, as Elie Weisel sits down, my first encounter with him, my Elie Weisel story. And in 1986, Ronald Reagan, I was covering the White House for NBC, and Ronald Reagan was going to take a state visit to Germany, and for some reason it had been decided, I guess as a sign of reconciliation during the war, since the war, that he was going to visit a German cemetery and lay a wreath there. And unbeknownst to the White House advance men who had arranged this, it turned out that some of those SS officers who never said thank you had been buried there. And so there was a huge controversy as to whether or not Reagan should go to the cemetery called Bitburg. And in one of those marvelous twists of fate that you couldn't write, but that happened in real life, Elie Weisel that week was to get an award from President Reagan. And so, of course, all of us in the media were kind of licking our chops at the prospect of the president who was going to go honor, and in a mistake of innocence, but still a mistake, to honor German soldiers at a cemetery that had SS troops, was going to present this award to Elie Weisel. The president, as I remember, did not say anything about it. Elie Weisel, and there was a question, was he going to confront the president about this? Well, if you know Dr. Weisel, you know, of course he was going to confront the president in a wonderful, learned way. And I remember, what is this, 26 years ago, said, it is part of our tradition, part of our duty to speak truth to power. And he said, Mr. President, you should not go to that cemetery. That is not your place. The president should not be there. Tom Brokaw was the anchor. I was the White House correspondent on the North Lawn. And I remember that I hoped the event would go on longer because at that particular moment on the North Lawn, waiting to react, I was in tears. Thank you.